pilots.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and DC has solicited their next YA graphic novel called I Am Not Starfire, and apparently they're going to be introducing Starfire's gay goth daughter, Mandy, to the DC Comics universe. And it pops in my head, who is this for? Like, what fan of Starfire or who knows about Starfire that is going to see this graphic novel and be really interested in, So I thought I would bring independent comic writer, independent comic editor, award-winning editor, Joe Corallo back on the channel to discuss it. How you doing, Joe?
I'm all right, Wes. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Now, I imagine, queer representation in comics and literature is something that is actually important to you. It's important to me. I think it's important that anybody can come to comics and find a character that they can identify with, or find a character or a story that they can really grab onto and hold and love and things like that. But it feels like these kind of stories are already being kind of tackled with independent comics. And I don't know, is this DC Comics brand?
Yeah, I mean, just like from my own background, I was fortunate enough to have Howard Cruz as one of like my early sort of like mentors. Who he had passed away last year, but was groundbreaker in gay comics out here. I've gotten to meet and people like Alison Bechdel. I got to probably before a lot of people knew Mariko Tamaki. I was familiar with her from her graphic novel Skim that came out in 2008. That her cousin Jillian Tamaki illustrated, and then again I from that I picked up This One Summer. And and that was great, and that's really what got her to break into the superhero genre. But she came from this like YA background, so if you're going to experiment with a YA book and you're not quite sure where it's going to go, between this, the Lumberjanes novels she's written, Laura Dean Broke Up With Me, and Harley Quinn Breaking Glass, and all this stuff. She is selling and moving these books. So if you are gonna throw something out like this that seems like it's completely out of left field, you can kind of anchor it with someone like Mariko, I think.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, yeah, she is the writer on this. She is working with DC. She's doing the Wonder Woman comic, and I think she's doing some stuff with Future State as well. Obviously, she worked at Marvel before that.
Mm-hmm.
She is a New York Times bestselling author. Like you said, she is known in the genre. Do you think that her name alone is enough to kind of, bulwark a title like this?
Yeah, I think that's where it gets tricky for like this one. But like, even if this isn't a major seller, this is a drop in the bucket for everything that Mariko's doing. So even if this particular title goes nowhere, this isn't going to really impact her. Probably wouldn't even impact the artist Yoshi. I've met her a few times as well. I think she's very talented. I know her a lot from like a lot of pinup work and things like that. But yeah, when it comes to this, like the core of the story here, like they teased out that this book was happening last year, and like Sci-Fi Wire, Comics Beat, and all that. I don't think we knew, it was going to be about Starfire's queer goth daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a lot of moving parts here that you're just like, do we want to have Starfire come off as being old enough to have a teenage daughter? Is there enough interest in a solo like it's like they did Raven and Beast Boy as graphic novels. Why not do a Starfire graphic novel? There's just a lot of questions and things happening here. Like if Raven and Beast Boy were successful, Starfire would be a logical next step, and not like skipping Starfire and going to her daughter.
There's another question I have. Almost not even just who is this particular book for. It's like almost who are all these books for? I imagine, like in my mind, I think, well, DC's doing YA graphic novels. It's to attract new YA readers to their material, to their heroes, and then they transition over to their mainline characters, whether it be in graphic novel form, if that's their preferred method of reading, or going into the periodics, which has been their bread and butter for so long. Like, do we think that they're going to do anything with this new character? Like, they only can put out so many books a year. Like, you would think that they would want to be putting all their efforts into like synergizing this with the next set of characters that they would move on to as they got older, and maybe doing something to where there's like a natural progression up. It just feels like this will be like one story.
Yeah, like when you look at some of the other books that have come out, like Raven Beast Boy, the younger Dick Grayson Nightwing one that came out, those sort of things. It's like you can read that and then go into the main DC universe, and there's tons of stories with all those characters there. The way they're doing this seems like more of like a dead end. So in a similar way, I think, to like you brought me the ocean with like that version of Aqualad, and and I think the problem here too starts becoming, is this the same formula? Because like the Aqualad one sounds similar. It's like it's a coming out story rolled into a coming of age story, and it's like dealing with all these issues at the same time. This sounds very similar. And you brought me the ocean that was also illustrated by someone well known in the queer comic circles. The person, I'm blanking on the person's name, but they did Blue's the Warmest Color. And that's a graphic novel. It was French Canadian. That I have that, enjoyed that. It became a movie. Like that was a big success too. So you're seeing DC is taking the time to bring in people who do have that background and have been successful selling these sort of queer graphic novels. It's just that, is this coming out in a way where you can make that sort of leap into, the next thing? Because I know when I read stuff as a kid, I just wanted, more. And if it's like a dead end with this one character, it's tough.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, just as a comic book creator, doesn't it feel like there should be synergy though? Like the people that are interested maybe in a Starfire, like parents that are interested in Starfire, or maybe aunts and uncles are probably like they know Starfire from the Teen Titans comic books, her relationship with Dick Grayson, or they know her through the TV show Titans, which I believe is streaming on DC Universe now. It's going to be over on HBO Max. Likely already transitioned there. Like, when somebody that's familiar with the character sees this book, is this? I can't imagine people familiar with the character are going to see this and be like, "That's a must-have."
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, I guess a bit of like putting the cart before the horse. It seems a bit like it's too early. It's like you need to develop this, character a bit. We need more, YA content with Starfire herself. Like then it also gets confusing because it's like, why are Raven and Beast Boy in this line? And I guess they're younger, but Starfire is old enough to be their mom, I guess. And then, there's a lot of untapped material, or not that often tapped. I mean, they've done some flashbacks to Starfire on her home planet of I want to say it's Tamarin. That she's what happened with her and leaving. Her relationship. God, it was like her brother was like a villain.
I know her
think
sister is
her
absolutely.
sister, right? Yeah, like I'm just trying to think. Like it's been a while since I read it, but the old Wolf and Perez stuff. But yeah, so her sister is the villain. But yeah, like there's a lot to play with in a YA situation. You could have rival sisters. Her growing up trying to prove herself. It's okay to like your family is the it doesn't have to be blood. It can be your friends. Like when she joins the Teen Titans, like there's a lot of stuff there to mine that hasn't been mined yet before you jump to something like this.
Also, DC does have established queer characters that aren't exactly at the forefront of being explored right now. Like you would think they'd be able to go back and maybe explore some of these themes or some of the storytelling with maybe some of the core characters that they already have that just aren't being used.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's characters like Coagula, Kate Godwin, who is a trans superhero they created back in, it was created by Rachel Pollack back in 1993 that is never used. And she was in Doom Patrol. It's like that's a property that's on TV right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like why not?
Batwoman's returning with a new lead character.
Yeah. Like it would be nice to see some of that synergy, some more like Batwoman, YA sort of graphic novels or something. It's like you have a CW show, like you can, like tap into some of that. There's other like goth like characters, like characters like Madame Xanadu, Claire and the Witch Boy, and characters like that where. Even if you're retconning them a bit to like make them queer, like there's not that many people would care. No one. If they announced that Clarion the Witch Boy was queer, and I don't know if he is or not, or has been portrayed that way or not, in different things he's used so sparingly, but if that happened, no one's gonna grab their stack of Clarion the Witch Boy comics and toss them out and rip down their Clarion the Witch Boy posters. It's just not, it's like that's a prime sort of character for these sort of things. I mean, I think the last time Clarion had like a series was like Annie Nocenti writing him in like the New 52, briefly. I think it was like 6, maybe 12 issues, but
So
yeah.
whenever we get an announcement like that, there's going to be a lot of people. They kind of roll their eyes. They're like, okay, DC's just trying to placate an audience that doesn't exist. I believe that they do exist, but it does sometimes feel like it's almost pandering. Like, okay, now Starfire's got a gay goth daughter. Like, never heard of her before. Where did she come from?
Yeah.
Can you understand how some longtime DC readers can kind of come to that? Does it sometimes feel like that even to you?
No, I get that, and I get that feeling. People don't like being pandered to, no matter what. And the other thing too, just to be clear here, this is not the kind of thing that has anything to do with the creative teams involved. Like, a lot of times people get, like creators get flack or something like that, but like this is IP owned by AT&T, Time Warner, DC, that they take an idea like this and are like, like, oh, who should we get to write this? And then they put that together. It's a work for hire thing. Mariko and Yoshi are getting a check to do this. That doesn't mean they didn't work hard or they didn't get invested in the story to tell the best story they could with what they have. But, this isn't the kind of thing where people should think like, oh, it's Mariko's, agenda or this and that. It's like, no, this is a job. I'm sure she wanted to, continue working with, queer characters. I think she's also doing a fantastic job on Wonder Woman. This is some of the most fun I've had reading Wonder Woman. It's just like a floppy in a long time. So yeah, it's like you could be confused and wonder why, but like this is where like the market sort of corrects itself. If this book doesn't go anywhere, they're not gonna do more.
Mhm.
You know, it's just because you know you have to look at the timeline. This was announced, and they already got Mariko. She was already writing the script back in 2019. You know, Dan DiDio was still in charge. The bloodbaths didn't happen yet. They still, you know, we didn't have wave 1 and 2 of that. You know, they might have changed their priorities at this point and are not going to go further with something like this, or maybe all in and just
Mhm.
decide that, you know, maybe this is going to be testing the waters to see, oh, you know what, we're going to upgrade the Teen Titans, just fully make them the Titans all around, and this is going to be, you know, a rollout of like a new Teen Titans, and it's going to be like all their kids, and we're going to make YA adventures out of this. Maybe this is the first part of that. I mean, I know this is a stretch, but I'm just saying, like, you never know, like where these things are going to go. If this book ended up being an unbelievable success, I guarantee you they would be like, yeah, no, that was the plan, and we're going to roll out a whole new generation of Titans. You bet. Like, you know, the
I
money
don't.
moves.
Am I crazy? I'm skeptical that like parents that are out there looking for a goth teen graphic novel or goth queer teen graphic novel for their kid to read to maybe learn some things goes to the DC Comics characters.
Yeah, no, I mean, I that wouldn't be my first choice. I, I don't know. It feels dated to me. Like the idea of like a goth kid right now just doesn't. It feels like a bit of a dated concept. You know,
Yeah.
it feels like something that you know a group of 40-year-olds who were you know, teenagers in the 90s would be like, oh, of course you had the goth kids and the jocks and this and that. And, you know, like, let's do something for the goth kids. And it's like, that's not really, I don't think that's as much of a thing anymore as you think it is.
Yeah, obviously it's still a subculture, and I'm sure that they read there's part of that subculture that reads graphic novels. I just don't think that they're going for the DC characters in those. I think if the parents and the people that are that age, that are that audience that go for the DC characters are probably looking for superhero stories.
Yeah, you know,
With
you're
possibly
for,
some crossing over into maybe life lessons and things like that.
yeah, I mean, I think this is probably the early parts of a rocky road that DC is going to be traversing for a bit, trying to figure out how to you know monopolize all sorts of genres within the graphic novel format with the IPs they already have and IPs they can branch off of, so that way you know they can sort of have more dominance over the market. So I think this is that experiment stage of we're gonna keep throwing stuff on the wall, see what sticks, and you know it's
Call me crazy, Joe. Obviously, I've never read a successful book line or anything that, but you have 80 years of history with all these wonderful characters. If I were wanting to penetrate the young adult graphic novel, market with my characters at the forefront, I would just kind of, go hire a Mariko Tamaki, take a classic story from Superman or Batman, throw a YA spin on it, get a contemporary artist that works in that genre, and say if that's what the kids say. I imagine those are tried and true stories that you make contemporary.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff you can do with that. There's you know, retelling of like when Supergirl landed on, you know, Earth. Like there's a lot of places you can go with that. It seems more out of left field than you know, it's more of like a head scratcher. It's just like I don't know. I don't know.
I think DC is probably going to piss off more of their established readership who were never going to buy this comic book to begin with. And I'm one of those. I'm not going to buy this. I don't have a young adult in the house. My kids are 5.
Sure.
But, they're going to be annoyed that this is happening because they're like, well, eventually it's going to bleed into the regular comics. And I just don't think that they're really going to find that audience was just sitting there waiting and frothing at the mouth for the, Starfire's queer goth daughter story.
Yeah, I mean, I personally would also be surprised if this particular character bled into the main line, because of what I was saying before with the idea of, this is pre, getting rid of, Dan and Bob and everyone. So any of those ideas, I think this is the kind of thing that, like, it's already basically done by the time these things were happening.
It's clear DC is going in a different direction.
Yeah.
They're focusing on different markets. They're wanting to synergize their CW Arrowverse, their streaming shows on HBO Max, their movies,
Yeah.
with the characters that are in the comic books. So I imagine we'll see that down the line.
Yeah, no, I think we'll be seeing that, and we're gonna see. I think Mariko is gonna play a major role in that, no matter what happens.
She's on Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah,
it's important for Warner Media, AT&T, DC Comics.
Yeah, and she has TV writing experience as well. She actually started off, I believe, as a playwright. She should have a bright future at DC, no matter what happens with this particular book. But yeah, I think it was already in the works, very similar to Future State and 5G and all that. It's like, okay, this is what.
All right, Joe, I'm gonna let you give me the sell. I'm not interested in Mariko Tamaki's work because I read some of her She-Hulk, and then I read her little short story in was it Green Lantern? I think it was Green Lantern, but I might be wrong. It was one of those 80th anniversary specials, and I thought they were both terrible.
Yeah. No, but she comes from a sort of graphic novel background. And I really liked Skim and This One Summer a lot. And there's a reason why she won awards for both of those works. With Wonder Woman, they clearly signed her, like they went all in on her with Wonder Woman. So she's been allowed to sort of tell a longer form story broken up into the comics. I imagine, like with most people at Marvel, you don't get that shot. It's like you get 6 issues and then we'll evaluate, and then another 6. It's crumbs, and you can't work in that larger, grandiose format when you're working that way, because you have to be like, this could be the last issue, so I got to wrap it up, and this could be the last issue, so I got to wrap it up.
So you think I'm misguided for avoiding Dark Detective in Future State simply because she's on it, and I don't think she'll write a good Bruce Wayne?
With Future State, I think it's okay to skip, but
because it's only 2 issues.
Yeah, I mean, it should be okay to skip any of Future State.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of people are skipping Future State.
Yeah, but Wonder Woman, it feels like more of an 80s comic where it's there's a larger story going on in the background, and then every issue or so, 2 maybe 3 issues, there's incremental successes, and she gets certain victories, and they're changing some of the stuff in the background to bring to the foreground, and maybe she beats someone, beats a bad guy in like a couple issues or so, and and now something's going on in the background that's going to come to the foreground in the next few issues. Like it's really just well done, like popcorn comics, and
she's not a food blogger.
No, she's not a food blogger, but like some of her work, obviously in the indie market, there's a lot of slice of life stuff, but there's hints of that here and there in Wonder Woman, but for the most part, it's pretty straight up superhero comic.
All right, well, maybe I'll go back and read some back issues of Mariko Tamaki's Wonder Woman. Obviously, I was not a fan of Tom Taylor, but I think his Deceased is great. I'm looking forward to actually his Dark Age of Marvel, even though I don't like his Marvel work, just because I think the Deceased stuff will kind of transfer over there like that. But hey, yeah. Joe, I want to say thank you very much for coming on here talking about I'm not Sapphire, the DC Comics YA graphic novel introducing Starfire's gay goth daughter to the DC universe. Who is this for? I don't know. I'm very skeptical that this is going to find an audience.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Stranger things have happened. I genuinely don't know where this particular one came from, but this is the creative team you'd want on a book like this to make it success. If it has a chance of being successful, it's going to be because of Mariko and Yoshi on this book. But it's again probably just going to fade away as part of the pre DC layoffs.
All right, thanks a lot, Joe. Really appreciate the perspective.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.